All right, we're back. Third segment. You're listening to the Fran Halloran Show. I'm Fran Halloran, and you're listening to us on The Point, Columbia's local talk radio experience, 95.9 FM, 1470 AM, and I believe if you're listening to us down in Orangeburg, it's on 1490 AM. So wherever you are, maybe you're on the TuneIn Radio app, maybe you're on the live stream at MakeThePointRadio.com. We are glad you're listening. So anyway, a lot of email to get through there today. I'm sorry we're a little bit behind, but I want to talk a little bit about this great meeting I had last night with a young couple getting married in June of 2015. I believe it's June, maybe July, but in the summer, June or July of 2015, they're getting married. And this is actually an appointment that her parents, they didn't set it up, but they encouraged her to come and sit down with me with her fiance and talk money. I've known this young lady and her family for 10 plus years. They are wonderful, wonderful people. They are, just salt of the earth, great human beings. The kind of people, if I had if I had a son and he happened to be her age, I would be pushing my son towards marrying this young lady because she is sharp. She's a rock star. And she's marrying a pretty good guy. Not quite as good as she is, but it's going to be a power couple. They are smart, strong, common sense oriented people. And they came to me for some pre-marriage financial coaching. And if you think about it, and this is a growing area of our business. We are doing more and more pre-marriage financial coaching for young couples than you can imagine. I've lost track of the number of young couples we've done in the last 6 months, but it's way more than I could count on my two hands and my feet. We're doing a lot of it. And if you think about it, it makes perfect sense. People, before they get married, when they decide to get married in a church, most churches will tell them, if you're going to get married in our church, then we kind of insist that we at least express to you our views and we make sure you understand where we're coming from, because if we're going to let you use our church, then we need to at least have a basic agreement about our belief system. And so the young people go through a session or 2 or 5 or 12 with a minister or a member of the clergy in the church or a preacher, and they talk about spiritual things, and they talk about behavioral things, but they never really talk about money. Now, some ministers do get into that, and they say things like, you need to make sure you've got some kind of financial foundation underneath you. And then they don't go into it much any beyond that. And I think the reason for that is they are not comfortable talking about that themselves. And what we found is that we can certainly help young people, young married couples, with their financial plan well before they ever get married. Because I don't know if you've heard me say this, and I'm being rather tongue-in-cheek here, over half of the marriages that happen in America every year are going to end in divorce. And the number one reason given for those marriages ending is always, the number one reason is money woes, money problems, money arguments. We just couldn't, we ended up divorced because we couldn't get our money situation straight. We were always broke. We never had any money. We were always in debt. It was always a struggle. He didn't like me shopping. I didn't like him spending time with his buddies in a bar. And what we end up with is a family that's got all kinds of brokenness in it, but the blame is always placed on the finances. So what we figured out is we can solve that problem by sitting down with a young couple, married-to-be couple, for 3 sessions. That's all we do. It's 3 sessions. It's very inexpensive as well. We discount the rate tremendously. 3 sessions, and we go through our financial plan with them. It's very, very simple. This young couple came to us, and they're in pretty good shape. I got to be honest. They are in pretty good shape. When we met the first time, about a month ago, both had a little bit of debt, student loans primarily. He had a small car loan. When I say small car loan, I mean small, like $5 or $6 grand. $150 a month, a little bit of credit card debt. He was very good, in his own words, at paying off his credit card every month. And all we did that first meeting was kind of share the plan. Didn't really get into too much. Showed him the way we do things. Shared with him a few ideas. Asked him a few questions. And I'll give you an example of what we initially found. Both of them had significant savings accounts, yet they both had debt. The young lady, she had enough in her savings account. She had 2 savings accounts. She had enough in her savings account that she could completely pay off her student loan that she was carrying around in a purse like a little chihuahua. She could completely pay off that student loan and still have $3,000 or $4,000 in savings. But she was still carrying around that student loan, paying the minimums, because guess what? That's what everyone is trained to do. Oh, just pay the minimums. It's a low interest loan. Just hold on to it. It's not really costing you anything. Bull dookie, it is costing you something. Okay, it's costing you whatever it is, plus your time and the risk and the stress. Get rid of it. So I suggested that she take some of her savings, pay off that student loan. He had a motorcycle that was literally sitting in his parents' garage. Wasn't riding it much. Wasn't doing much with it. Nice bike from what he described. And I don't know if I've shared this with you guys. I'm a motorcycle guy. I don't have one anymore. I got rid of my last bike when my son Frank was about to be born. And I haven't had one since. And I'm jonesing to have another one. But when I buy another one, it will be a very nice BMW motorcycle that I can drive all the way across country, because that's one of the things on my bucket list. So I'm a motorcycle guy. So telling this young man, maybe you ought to think about selling that bike, was going to be tough. And truth is, I didn't have to tell him. He said, I've been toying with the idea of selling my motorcycle. I know some people who would buy it from me. I could sell it and pay off at least one of my student loans, maybe my car. I said, yeah, that might be a good plan. You ought to think about that. So that was our first session about a month ago. We had our second session last night. Let me share with you what these 2 rock stars have done. She paid off for the most part. I think she's got to make one more $800 payment next month. She stroked a check for $6,000 to pay off a $6,800 student loan. And the only reason she didn't pay it all off was because she just wanted to be able to call next month and get the exact payoff so that she didn't owe anymore. She didn't, have to pay anymore. And I said, okay, whatever. She stroked a check for $6,000 to pay off that debt. That just got me rolling last night. I was so excited for them to be able to get rid of $6,000 worth of debt. And she still has money in savings, folks. Plenty. She has way more than a mini emergency fund in savings. He has decided he's going to sell his motorcycle to pay off one of his student loans. Kudos to him. I mean, talk about a little bit of sacrifice for long-term gain. So she stroked a check for $6,000 and all but completely wiped out a student loan. And by the way, that's her own debt. That's her only debt. He's selling his motorcycle. He is going to then begin putting a minimum of $650 per month away towards his student loan and his small car loan. Now here's where they are. He is 29, she is 26. In 2 years' time, and it's probably going to be faster than that, but in 2 years' time, 1 year into their wedding, more or less, one year into married life, they're going to be debt-free. That's right, debt-free. At 28 and 31, they will have no debt. Now, here's the thing. If at this point in time, because they both did their 90-day snapshots for me, and they figured out they're both wasting, because they're separate, they're not living together, they're not living as one. She has her place, he has his place. She has her budget, he has his budget. They're both wasting approximately $250 to $300 a month on needless spending. That's more money they can apply towards debt reduction once they get married. If they ramp this thing up, and in 18 months they're debt-free, and by the time he's 30 and she is 27, almost 28, if only they put $500 a month away, by the time they're in their early 60s. It's $1.3 million in good growth stock mutual funds. And by the way, that's only with the money they're wasting right now. That's not with the money they'll free up by getting out of debt. If they put $1,000 a month away, we're talking almost $3 million by the time they're in their early 60s. $3 million. Folks, what we are talking about here is opportunity lost. Get out of debt so that you can save your money for yourself. We'll be back on the other side of this.